Okay, I have a box, and it is right here, and we can see that we have Chocolate installed, a couple of other things installed. Now let's kick off a provision. And while that's going, let's kind of talk about what's going on here. So I have this particular script here, and you can see that we're making sure that we have some Windows features installed. So we're making sure that we have the .NET Framework 4.52 installed. If we needed to install it and we have a pending reboot, we're going to go ahead and reboot the server. We're going to make sure a file gets set down, or sorry, a directory gets set down. From that, we're going to notify for a file to be created. I'll explain what these are in a minute. We're going to make sure the administrator is present. Then we're going to create an ACL. We're going to set our administrator to give them full rights, and then our users will give modify rights. Purge out anybody else. And then not inherit any parent permissions. Okay. We're going to take this service and we're going to set it to stopped, and then set its startup type to manual. That file from before, where we created the directory, we're going to put a file on the system. We're going to give it some content. Content can be a template, another file, or a file off of the Puppet master. We're going to install a couple of packages. Here we're just going to make sure one gets installed, and then on the other we're going to install a particular version. Then we're going to set up some a registry value here, and so we're letting that run right now. You see it has just completed, and so this is our notice that we would get if we were running it. And we're running this as Puppet Apply, and so there's no master agent relationship going on right now. It's simply take this manifest and make the changes to the system. And so we have a package got installed, we got our user set, our other package was created, we were able to create a folder, then we were able to set permissions on that folder. Now if you'll notice, you saw that the package happened first, and that's because the order in the manifest is not necessarily the order. And notice how it was down here, that all of the resources get applied. Now that has changed in Puppet 4 to be the default, so manifest order is the default resource order. And you can actually set that setting in the config, the Puppet conf, to be that if you want that particular order. Otherwise, you just leave the default order. And so we got our permissions changed, and then we created the file, and then we set a registry key. All right, and so if we take a look back at two spots. First here, I have what are called chaining arrows, and these chaining arrows actually determine the order of these two resources being applied, which means this one, and then it's going to let this one know. And what it's actually doing is it's saying, I want you to go, then you to go. And it's not doing a notification. Now there's two types of ways of setting up your resource ordering explicitly. And so the notifications are called notify and subscribe, and what they do is let's talk about the other two first. So that you have before and require. And so before means I want you to do this thing before you do me, and then others the require, which means after I'm done doing my stuff, then I want you to call this other thing. And so if we go back up here, we have a notify. Now notify is the same thing as before, and so what it means is I'm going to call reboot before to see if I need to reboot, and then if I don't, then I'm going to go ahead. And notify and subscribe have the additional that they're actually going to refresh if the notifying resource changes, in case it's a and so if this needs to change, then it's going to refresh this and make sure that it happens again. And so if this has happened and this needs to happen again, then that's what the refresh does. And so the same here, notify if that file gets created, it's going to do that for me. Okay, now, so that's all good and dandy. And it says it applied everything okay to our system, but let's actually go look at our system. So we should have some packages installed, and we do. And then we should have at least one new piece of software here, which came in with Launchy. And then additionally, we should also have this folder here with a file in it, and this file should have some content. So let's cause a little bit of configuration drift and change that. And then if we kick that provision off again, we're going to see is it's going to say, hey, this file it's changed, and so I'm going to put it back. Also, if we take a look at the folder, we can see that our permissions got applied for us. And we may see one little thing since I changed the config on the way where it's going to change it to administrators. Yeah. We'll also see that we changed the content of the file here. Okay, and so that is going to set the content back to what it was before. If we go back here and look, it's going to say, hey, it changed. It's going to put it back. And so if I have a web config or I have some sort of set of files on the system that really ensure the state of my application, then I can actually ensure that state using Puppet to say, hey, this is how it should look. And if that content that it was looking at was based on something that was in some sort of zip file or something, and so I could still do it for an entire directory of files, I would be able to ensure that content without a lot of work. I would just do it based on a file and the source and make it recursive, and it would actually make sure that all of those files stayed in the state that I wanted to without a lot of work on my part. Alright, and so let's change this to installed. Installed just means it should be there. And let's, oh, we didn't look at the registry key. Why don't we do that real quick just to be sure. Regit. So I have a test key here. I have my just a key for testing over here, and so if I make no changes here, then when I run it should just finish out and not have any changes to apply, so it shouldn't do anything. And in this case, I made a change to my manifest, but I made a change from something that had a particular version to I just want to make sure it's installed, so there shouldn't be actually any changes that need to be applied here. And it finished. Okay, now let's head in here and let's actually start getting rid of some things. And so let's turn on our service because we need that service to be on. Let's put this on the latest version. Let's get rid of this one. And let's kill off these keys. So this time through, it should be getting rid of a bunch of stuff for us. So I believe we uninstalled an app, and then we also decided around how should go to the latest version. Got my little calendar modules here. It's running right now. It's doing its thing. We can see that down here it's removed the app. At the very least, it got removed from here. Got rid of this, so if we refresh on it, you can see that it's gone now. Alright, so that's kind of interesting, but the real power comes back in the modules that we talked about. So one of the modules that I have installed is called Chocolatey Server, and you get that particular module by going out to the Forge, and what you would do is you would look here and you could say, I want to install Chocolatey/Chocolatey Server. And now I have a little site forwarding going on, and so once this guy is done, we should have a site running from it. Okay, so let's go back over here. So I've this. I'm going to go ahead and kick off the provisioner, and we can talk about it while it's going. And it's going to take it about 2 minutes. So if we take a look here, we can see that we're ensuring a package is installed. Then we're going to make sure that we have IIS installed. We're going to make sure that we have ASP.NET installed. We're going to remove the default website. And we're going to set up an app pool for the app. And then we're going to create a site for the application. We're going to lock down the web directory down to the web users. And then we're going to open up the app data folder so that we can write content to it. And so, not a lot of lines of code here. But definitely quite a powerful concept that in that shorter lines, we might actually be able to create a server. And if we watch this, what will happen is, as it goes, it's going to actually create. It's going to install IIS, and so that's the first thing. So now IIS is installed. We roll over it, and we should be able to get to something somewhere soon. I'm hoping that that is the right. It's going much slower at the moment. Kind of while we're waiting on that, why don't we take a look at some of the resources that we have available here. So out at publiclabs.com, you can get to all the information you need with links to the Forge, links to the docs. The docs are fantastic. Spending a bit of a moment inside of the type reference. So these are all the core topics that I was talking about. And then I said a few of those actually apply to Windows as well. So you can go to docs.publiclabs.com/Windows, and you can actually get very Windows specific information that helps you understand things like Puppet being case sensitive. The language itself is case sensitive, where Windows is not. And so when you're describing resources and things, you need to keep that in mind. Understanding file system redirection if you're using the 32-bit version of Puppet on a 64-bit system, which I don't really recommend, but some organizations are still in that avenue. Puppet Enterprise. We'll come back to that. Let's see where we got. Are we there yet? Doesn't think so. But it does say it has finished, so maybe that particular site is actually over at 8080. I could have sworn I changed it to 9080. And it is. Okay, and so we've created our simple package repository. We've got it running now. And so we did quite a bit of work, and it got us to this point. And we did it very simply. We just included a class. And that class, if we needed to override anything, we could have overridden the port. and then everything would have been happy. All right, and so one thing I didn't really have time to show was the Puppet Enterprise. And Puppet Enterprise actually has a console, and the console looks like this. And so this allows you, in a nice glance, is to get access to all of that data, like reports. And so, like, if we take a look here, we got a report from this particular agent slash master. But all of the different nodes that we could have on here, we'll be able to check in, and we'd be able to get nice rich reporting, knowing what's happening on there, knowing what's changed and what hasn't changed on the system. We can actually expand. And if we were to need to access machines, we could use live management. We could do classification of our nodes, which will allow us to say, I want to turn this server into a web server. I would have some group called web server or something, and then I could just create that, and then on my nodes I could actually classify that particular node and tell it it's going to be a web server. And so you can see there's some groups on that one already, but I could go in and I could actually add to that as well. Now, I mentioned that the Puppet Forge is out there. There's over 150 modules for Windows that are on the Forge. A whole bunch more you can probably find on GitHub. And so a couple in particular, the Windows meta module, which brings in pretty much all of the different items you're going to need, including Chocolatey really soon. It's actually in progress getting worked on right now to bring this particular module down with the Windows module pack. The Chocolatey package provider for Puppet. ACLs, which if you're going to do anything with permissions, is highly recommended that you use that. And then the PowerShell module, really important to take a look at that. Now, you'll notice that some of these have this thing that says approved over to the right, and that just means that these are supported modules. They've been rigorously tested. All the stuff has been verified by Puppet Labs. And if you have an issue with any supported module, you can pick up the phone and get with support if you're a customer and get somebody working on that. We also have this concept of approved, and approved modules are modules that are given out by the community that meet a lot of the same rigorous standards that we have. The only difference is at the end of the day, you can pick up the phone and ask for support, and we can help you, but we can't get changes into those particular things because we don't own them. And that's really the difference. Also, this entire presentation is available out at ferventcoder/Puppet Windows presentation on GitHub. And out there, there's a link to the demo. And so all this demo code that I'm running now is there. And also the presentation itself. So you can take a look at that when you want.